And I'm going to say good evening and welcome to everyone. This is Jennifer Reynolds, Armchair Traveler, coming to you from Tampa, Florida. Tonight we are going to have a Jennifer's Journey, I like to call it. We spent some time together last month and traveled to a myriad of different destinations, and I just wanted to continue during the month of April to see what kind of mischief maybe that we could possibly get into. But my name is Jennifer Reynolds. I was born and raised in Canada. I live in Tampa, Florida. I've always worked in the travel industry. I've never worked in any other business, most recently as the regional director of sales in the Southeast for scenic luxury tours and cruises. I worked on cruise ships for a long time. I found that photograph looking through some things earlier today. On the bottom right-hand side, it says MV Silver Cloud. And on board that ship, I ran shore excursions for many years. I was on cruise ships for over 18 years, running shore excursions, traveled a number of places throughout the world, and many traveled with me over our Armchair Travel series last month. We had a visit to the Antarctic where we saw penguins and whales and phenomenal ice everywhere. The Galapagos Islands, where I'm going to take you back to on Wednesday night this week. The Panama Canal, we looked a little bit at the history of the canal. We did a partial transit of the Panama Canal. We also spent some time together in Italy, in Rome, Florence, and Venice. We focused a little more on Venice and some of the environmental challenges that exist there. And all of these talks that I did recently can be found on Jennifer Reynolds Travels on YouTube, and they are also being run on collagetravelradio.com. Ireland was a special place for us to travel to. It's one that I think a lot of people are going to travel to next year. But the one thing that I've always admitted is our world is a very fast changing one. When it comes to travel, in particular, it can be very difficult, very challenging. And I always encourage anyone, and I myself always use a travel professional. In our gatherings last week, and I'm going to make the same assumption over this month as well, we had travel agents with us. I had many of my travel agents who invited their travel partners with us because we're travel professionals. This is what we've done all of our lives, is be professional and in travel. And it's so important to work with someone that has your best interests at heart. And with that being said, and having had a phenomenal amount of experience and years in travel, welcome to Jennifer's Journeys, a series of 12 different places that we're going to go to. And the first place that I want to take you to this session, this month, is actually the country of Peru in South America. I want to share with you a little bit about Peru, and we will combine that with the Sacred Valley and Machu Picchu tonight. I invite you to come back with me on Thursday night, and we'll talk a little bit more about going to Machu Picchu and combining it with the Galapagos Islands and also the Peruvian Amazon. But let's look at South America. I've been very fond of South America for a long time. We looked at Ecuador together before. I'm going to grab my little highlighter here, and yes, I am a map junkie because I firmly believe, one, if we know where we're going, and two, an understanding of why we're going there, our world is so much more enriched. We're going to take a look at the country of Peru right there on the left side. The Andes Mountains run through it all the way down through Chile into and running parallel to the Pampas and, of course, Argentina. South America is magnificent. It's huge. There's so much of it to be seen, and I'm always surprised how many Americans don't really realize or understand how big it is. In having a little extra time on my hands these days, I've become even more geography focused in doing some projects just last night on South America, on the riverbeds, on the tributaries, on the capitals. And this is all from the geography coloring book. And if you want to take any of the things that we look at here and go a little bit further, the geography coloring book is a wonderful way to go because it'll give you a really quick snapshot of pretty much anywhere in the world. Plus, it's really an adult coloring book. But this country of Peru, bordered by Ecuador to its north, you can see Colombia, also Brazil, touching on Bolivia and very briefly on Chile on the southern end. It's really an extraordinary country, and I want to focus on three different areas. So many people, when they look at the country, they know it for Machu Picchu, and indeed, we are going to look at Machu Picchu here as well. But to look at the country of Peru and only look at it from Machu Picchu is like looking at the state of Florida and thinking all we have to offer is Disney World. There's so much more around it. So we're going to do a combination of Lima and a little bit of the valley and into Machu Picchu. I also want to invite you a little later on into Iquitos, up here into the Peruvian Amazon areas that I've been to a number of times, and areas that I believe people are going to want to go to very, very much. But let's start coastal. This is Callao, or Lima, Peru. The port city is called Callao. A lot of cruise ships in South America may start or stop here. There's other ports along the coast that you may go to, but certainly going into Lima is really very much a treat. Sea level is sea level around the world. I've had more than one person say to me, what altitude is Lima at? And Lima itself is at sea level. Lima has about 10 million people. The country of Peru itself has just over 32 million, so it's safe to say one in three live in the city. We're right along the coast here. It nestles up to the Andes Mountains, and then the other side of the Andes Mountains, of course, is the Amazon basin. But Lima has a heck of a lot going for it. It's called the City of Kings. There's a tremendous history, a colonial history here. Lima was founded by Francisco Pizarro in 1535. It was here that the conquistadors had their headquarters. UNESCO heritage sites are all over Lima proper, not just in the Sacred Valley and other spots such as Machu Picchu, but there's just so much here to see. Yet it's a very crowded environment now with over 10 million people. It has a very active religious environment. There's a very, very active food and cultural environment as well. In fact, it may surprise you to know that Lima leads as one of the gastronomic destinations in all of South America. Phenomenal museums, phenomenal hotels. You don't have to spend a fortune in Lima. Yet you kind of got to go to Lima, and many people will come in, just go to the airport overnight, and then zip off someplace else. I'm just saying Lima's worth a look-see. Some of the museum, the Largo Herrera, the art museums here, some of them have phenomenal restaurants and gardens that are associated with them. But it's a big city. It's a complicated city. There's a complicated history with it. And you may have heard the term the Shining Path, which goes back a number of years, and it has been really a cross to bear with the Shining Path. Guzman was the guy's name. It started in the late 1960s. A communist movement. It went out into the hills. It's a story. It's a very deep story. We could do a full talk on it itself, but many of the folks that called the mountain ranges home were forced out of the mountains into the cities because of the Shining Path and being really caught in the middle, and so many migrants left the mountains. In the 80s and 90s, folks, they kind of got things under control, and Guzman was in jail here, and it still had such a tremendous swelling of population in the cities. People who had to leave the countryside, who were forced out. Some have gone back, but they're really trying to eke livings out of here. And Peru, like many countries elsewhere, if you don't work, you don't eat. So it's a very assertive society, yet a very, very beautiful and colonial one. An area of Lima called Miraflores is to the southern end, which is where most, and I'll put tourists, will stay, but everything from high end and low end experiences, Swiss hotels, Hilton, Marriott's, easy to get to and from, but the traffic congestion is really something else. But if you continue south through Lima towards the coast, something pretty exquisite happens an hour or two south of Lima. And yes, I have more maps coming up. Some of them could be considered day trips, although very long day trips. You have an opportunity for things like the Nazca lines. So many stories about the Nazca lines. How were they created? Was it aliens? Were they indeed markers? They have been considered religious factors for many years. The one thing that is known, though, is no one really knows where it is that they came from. You can fly over the Nazca lines too. And those are trips that are well worth time here in Peru. Looking at an aerial shot of the coastline, a phenomena off of the coast called the Islas Baístas, almost the Whales Islands, are also known as the Galapagos of Peru. Yet another one of the hieroglyphs that are here, or gyroglyphs, forgive me, hiero belongs to Egypt. Again, not really in the Nazca area, but we're now down in the Paracas zone, and this is all a park area. You may have heard of the Islas Baístas, or Peru's Galapagos Islands. They're not very far off of the mainland. A 35-minute boat ride will take you over there, and it is a nesting ground for phenomenal amounts of birds. You'll find blue-footed boobies here, and they nest on the rocks. You'd never find any red-footed boobies because they nest up in trees. But there's something all over those rocks, and that is not salt. That is called guano, and for many years this was an export out of Peru. Many countries have exported guano as part of fertilizer, and guano is basically bird poop. And when you are on a trip out to the Islas Baístas, well, it may be extraordinary. I can assure you the boat captains do everything they can to keep you upwind, because it'll make your eyes run and it'll hurt. It'll definitely hurt. But I mentioned Lima again because everything begins and ends in Lima. If you're coming into the country, that's where the international airport is. A new international airport is up to be built. There is a lot of controversy about it. And of course, we know so much about the Incas here in Peru. Uh, Yet there were so many other civilizations that were here before the Incas that were just as influential. The Chimus, the Moches, the Paracas. But look at the top 3 archaeological sites in South America belong to Peru. Number 10 is Cusco, Peru, which was actually the seat of the Inca Empire, while Lima was the beginning with the conquistadors and Pizarro and all of his gang. It might surprise you to learn that just north out of Lima, there's some pretty crackerjack beaches. Great beachfront condominiums, beachfront activities, price points go a really long way. Great amounts of fishing as well, Pacific fishing. Never discount what this country has to offer. We can but mere scratch the surface in our 30 minutes together. But on a flight from Lima over the Andes Mountains, and that's the only way that's going to happen, you'll find your way into Cusco. Cusco was the seat of the Incas. Cusco stands at a high altitude. So many people, when we get into the Andes Mountains, folks are worried about the altitude of Machu Picchu, when in fact the altitude here at Cusco is about 11,000 feet, and that's going to be about the highest spot that you're going to be at. Looking at the map in front of us, I'll grab my little spotlight. We started in Lima. We took a quick trip down here to Nazca. And yes, that can be done in some day trips. If we went north of Lima, there's some of the beaches and many other of the archaeological sites that are here. But we've jumped on a plane, we've crossed the Andes Mountains, and we found our way in Cusco. And for the next little while, we're going to stay here in Cusco. We're going to go through the Sacred Valley and spend some time together in Machu Picchu, in a place that forever changed my world, for certain. I've had a chance to go a number of times. The city of Cusco is phenomenal. It is at 11,000 feet of altitude, and folks really should be prepared. Best way to deal with the altitude: don't take alcohol, drink lots of water, walk carefully, drink ginger, mate, or the coca tea is served everywhere. This place was made for walking. This place was also made for crowds. Um, these Incas were extraordinary, and you're just starting to understand the magnificence of them. Yes, you want to get to Machu Picchu, that citadel that was built in the 15th century, but to get there, you got to understand all of this stuff because these Incas, they were really, really organized. They had an extremely good communication structure, which to this day allows us to do some phenomenal hiking through the entire valley itself. Um, they didn't tolerate anybody stepping out of line. If you did step out of line and it was bad, you were pushed off a cliff. If you were possibly in for reformation, they might just cut your hand off, but not your feet, because you needed those to be able to do some running. The hotels and the facilities here in Cusco are wonderful. No new build hotels, but you'll find some things that are humble, some things that are high end. You might find internet spotty on occasion through thick stone walls as you start to really understand what this was all about. The Incas used maize was their staple food, and they were, I don't want to say brutal, but they had a really strong, well organized hierarchy. And to know where we are and to know and understand a little bit, let's look at Cusco right up here at 11,000 feet. If we leave Cusco and go down into the Sacred Valley, that Sacred Valley, the bottom of it would be the Urubamba River, which runs right here through Ollantaytambo. You can see the trail to Agua Caliente, which is the town at the base of Machu Picchu, and then finally Machu Picchu itself. You can see part of the trail, one of the hiking trails for the Inca Trail. But notice places like Yucay, Urubamba, Ollantaytambo, and Pisac. These are all towns. These are all places with the Incas. These are all ruins that are here. One could spend weeks in the valley exploring a myriad of ways, and that's what makes it really, really fun. But from Lima to Cusco. Here in Cusco, that's a really great example. One of the hotels, and you can see the church in the background. It doesn't matter where you go, you're going to find a church. It looks very gray, but the colors will become way more apparent as we start digging into the Sacred Valley itself and start meeting and understanding the people. Because that's what a lot of travel is about. People will say to me it's about food, and I'll say, okay, but I think it's really about people. I think it's about understanding that the Spanish, that Pizarro and his troops were running through here. They used the Incas as slaves, and yet we have this left behind from the Incas. This entire valley was the playground of the Inca kingdom. And today you can do river rafting on the Urubamba. It was a wonderful, wonderful trip on the Urubamba. I've got wonderful memories of that. The valley itself is very fertile. That means that there is a lot of growth. There's a lot of agriculture. And don't mistake yourself, there is a tremendous amount of culture. Local artists, local studios, people that welcome you into their homes. And it always comes back to the people. The thing that amazed me as I meandered here in the Andes, you can start to recognize the villages that the young ladies are from by the colors of their skirt, by the type of hat that they're wearing. The Indians that speak Quechua here in the hills. And these are what the mountains look like. But now we've come down from Cusco into the Sacred Valley, and you'll get down as low as about 8,000 feet. The valley's exquisite. Again, there's a variety of hotels, bed and breakfasts, all kinds of unique accommodations and activities. But this is called the Sacred Valley for a reason. Within the spas, there is a tremendous sense of spirituality, no matter where you go. The sky just seems a little bit clearer. The stars just shine a little bit brighter. The architecture is just a little bit more unique because this is the Sacred Valley. coming along the sides of the road and meeting these women trying local chicha, which is made out of maize, which is corn, because that was the staple item and still remains today. Interesting little facts, 3,000 types of potatoes grow in Peru. I had no idea they were known worldwide for over 3,000 varieties. And traditions in different places where at hotels where pigs or food will be cooked underground, people sharing the local cultures. But it's the train. You can have the road and you've got the train. So you can come from Cusco and you can do the drive down the valley or you can take the train. I believe strongly that you need a travel professional to pull these trips together for you. Today, Machu Picchu is allowing just over 2,500 visitors per day. Eliana, you said there you can't hear me anymore. I'm going to hope that's okay. If you can't hear me, let me know and I'll continue on here. But into the valley, it's all about colors. There's a lot of the markets, and this plays into the schools, into the history, into the shining path, into the agriculture, into the wool that you're looking at that is spun here with many of the colors coming from nature. None of that is chemicals. The red in there would be from beetle. The yellow might be from a plant, but all of it is natural coloring. Once you reach a certain point, you're either hiking into Machu Picchu or you're going to get on the train. There's the Hiram Bingham, there's the local train, there's a variety of ways of doing things, but this is Transportation Central, folks. Grab a snack, meet some local people, because these markets are everywhere. But this is the view of the valley. And no matter where you are, it is special. It is exquisite. You can't sit on the wrong side of the train. But there is a point in the valley just after Ollantaytambo where you're either hiking in or you're jumping on the train. And then that train takes you to what you see in front of you here, which is a place called, and it just went out of my head, the springs at the base, Agua Caliente, hot springs. Agua Caliente, which is right at the base of the mountain of Machu Picchu. This is a really neat little town you can day trip in. I loved staying over here. There's high-end properties, jungle properties, B&Bs, cool places to stay. At this point, the markets might start repeating themselves, but I assure you, you've got some great gifts that you'll be able to bring back. The kids blew my mind how beautiful these children are. A lot of them in Agua Caliente who are working, and they'll reappear in different places because if you don't work, you don't eat. But the reward is some time at the top of Machu Picchu. There is a hotel at the top. You can stay overnight. Sometimes it's nice to have a taste of something and leave wanting more. But a few hours at Machu Picchu is without a doubt an exquisite experience. Go with your guide. Learn the stories of the citadel from the 15th century. You're at 8,000 feet of altitude here. Buses take you up a switchback from Agua Caliente into Machu Picchu. The weather can change quickly and it can change dramatically. You'll see huanacos in lots of spots here grazing. Be with your guide, step off from them, pop on some music. Nobody really knows what Machu Picchu was created for. There's many theories. Huayna Picchu on the opposite side there a number of years ago. Well, it's open again, but they had a very bad fire at the top of Huayna Picchu, and now you can hike up there. But one hotel at the top, the ability to stay in Agua Caliente, and phenomenal memories. I have had 5 visits to Machu Picchu, and that was a recent one when I worked with Trafalgar, and we did our sales meeting in Peru. But going in on that train and then taking the switchback road is one way you can do it. Many of you have likely heard of the Inca Trail. This trail, of course, is famous. Only 500 travelers a day are now allowed on the Inca Trail. It was getting very well traveled. One must have a guide with them now. You get the opportunity to come into the Sun Gate. It can be a 4-night trek coming in, and I did it with a 2-night trek on one trip up. And walking in through the Sun Gate at sunrise in the morning after hiking that last leg was truly one of the most exquisite moments in my life, when my knees literally went out from under me, and you know you're having a moment, and that's what travel does. From Lima, we zipped on down. Let's take a look here. Down the coast to the Nazca lines and the Islas Baistas right off the coast here. We flew over to Cusco through Agua Caliente. And yet there's something else interesting that happens from Cusco over to Puno here, which is on Lake Titicaca, which borders Bolivia. Lake Titicaca is the highest navigable lake in the world. And from Cusco, you can turn around and jump on a train, and it takes about 8 hours. It runs certain days of the week. And you can go from Cusco to Puno on Lake Titicaca, this magnificent navigable lake that is the highest in the world. What's it known for, and why would you want to be bothering to go here? This is Pachamama, the mother of the earth. This is where Pachamama was born. When you come to these parts of the world, whatever you open, whatever you go to drink, you give the first part of it to the earth. You open a bottle of wine, you pour the first part to the earth, and you say, thank you, Pachamama. You go to sit down to dinner, you take something and give it to Pachamama, to the earth. These are the islands, the reed islands. These are the reeds that are piled on top of each other, one after the other. You can stay on the islands. The people here are phenomenal. This is an exquisite culture. I came in here and I have a fond memory. I had a watch that I was wearing, a Raymond Weil watch. I got up to such a high altitude coming through Bolivia and Lake Titicaca that the face of my watch actually shattered, and I had to send it in for repair. But these are the connections that you can have on the lake. And I look at that photograph down there, and I look up at my office wall, and that blue mola lived on that island, and now it lives with me here in Tampa. An exquisite place, an extraordinary opportunity to come to a country like Peru, a chance to come down to Lake Titicaca to refresh yourself, to reset your mind, and I invite you to come and do that with me Wednesday and Friday night this week. That's what we're going to do, a little bit further journey. It's about creating ourselves until May 1st. We're going to dig in a little bit further, and on Wednesday night, we're going to look at Peru, a little bit of Machu Picchu, and up into the Peruvian Amazon. If you've never been to Iquitos and the rivers of the upper part, the tributaries of the Amazon, these are the giant lily pads that make home here. And because so many people love to do Machu Picchu in Peru in conjunction with Galapagos, I want to dig in a little bit further to Galapagos. In the background, you can see the Lammerlaw. And I had 5 journeys to Galapagos as well. And as the wife of an oceanographer, it's a part of the world that I'm pretty darn passionate about. To travel is to live is to travel. Our content is available on collagetravelradio.com and, of course, on Jennifer Reynolds Travels, both on Facebook and on YouTube. And on Sundays, 1 p.m. live, an armchair travel session on collagetravelradio.com. So join me for that starting this Sunday afternoon. Thank you for traveling with me. This is Jennifer Reynolds, your armchair traveler. Jennifer's Journeys is underway. I look forward to having you back on Wednesday and Friday and possibly in weeks after that. Thanks for joining me.